Good to have with us today, Debra Perry of Jaidyn's Call. Debra, how you doing?
I'm doing great today. How are you?
I am doing good. We're going to talk about Jaidyn's Call in just a moment, but I think people that now see a face with Debra Perry are going, she kind of looks like
Looks
Libby.
familiar.
Yeah, and I think we've seen her in years gone by. You sang with the Perrys for years, of course, as a member of the group, a member of the family, and one of the original members of that family.
That's right. I was with the group for 18 years. I tell everybody nobody's beat my record yet. so, uh, yeah, we started, when we were just kids. And when I say kids, of course, I'm the tallest of the three of us. So I definitely always looked like I was older than Libby and Randy, which I will leave that up to others to speculate whether that's true or not. But yeah, for 18 years, came off the road. I started having children, and I really felt like that I needed to be home at that time, and I wanted them to have somewhat of a normal life. And now that we're so many years down the road, sometimes I wish that I had raised them on the road. You know what I'm saying? Um, but God has been good through the years. We've been through a lot of stuff as a family and personally for myself. Those years after coming off the road were really hard, but it's amazing how God can take a broken life and just do a work. And so never ever thought that I would ever be back on the road. Um, I did not miss the politics of the road,
Mm-hmm.
being in the industry, even though I love a lot all the people that's in the industry. But for me, I'm not a performer. I'm a worshiper. And so when you put me on the stage in a concert setting, back then I was a whole lot different, going through a lot of personal issues back then. So I didn't have the confidence um, that I feel like that I have now. And I think it's that we come to that place that we know who we are in Christ. And so he's the one that gives us the confidence that we need. But I never missed it till we went to a concert and I would see the family up there singing, and it would definitely, I wanted to be up there with the family.
Your family, you have had personal tragedies, and it started young. I know you had brothers who died in separate tragic accidents. Um, was your faith ever tested during that course of time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was 11 when I lost my oldest brother, and he was murdered. He was put into an old refrigerator. Actually, the refrigerator that was put in the trash dump was a refrigerator that came out of my grandfather's house, and the renters had went bad, and so they took it off on this old logging road. We live out in the country in the and back then it was really in the boonies, and so that's where he was put, and that's where he met the Lord. I can remember I had never been through losing anybody and being so young. Um, but I was raised in an independent Baptist church, and I was raised not to question God when something like this happens. Now, as I have studied the Bible and studied the Word, I think the Lord truly understands, especially when you're young like that. And I did question him, but I felt bad about questioning,
Hmm.
why God did you let this happen um, in this kind of way? It was just so traumatic being so young that there's no words to say, but I just know this. I know that God brought me through. He brought all of us through. And yes, I thought about that something could happen again, but I never thought that it would. And then 12 years down the road, we lost our baby brother down at our neighbor's house. He went fishing, and um, it wasn't planning to go in swimming, but that day he did. And, there he was in this pond, and they had all the the little boats there, and the other children, the people that owned the pond, their kids were there swimming, and they had inner tubes. They thought he was playing. He swam out to the middle of the water, and that was, I was older. I was 22 years old when that happened, and definitely had grown up and matured a whole lot more. But the sorrow and the pain, it just brought back so much of that. So yes, during that time, I just, when you're trying to live right and you're trying to do right, and things like this happen, um, God understands that we wonder why,
Mm-hmm.
but He's faithful through it all.
And I believe, I'm one that believes there's nothing wrong with questioning God. If you don't question, you don't get answers often. So,
That's exactly right. And that's what I found out, because every time I would question God, when my first brother passed away, I felt guilty. But then there was something inside of me that kept telling me, and it was God, it was the Holy Spirit speaking, that it's okay. You're young and you've never lost anybody close to you. And, it's okay to question, why did this happen? And you know what? I look, we didn't come from a singing family. Nobody in the family sang. Um, it was just a call that God placed on all of our lives, and not saying that we're anything great. Um, I always feel like that I'm just, really in this world, we're just a little pea. And, but God can use that. And that's what He's done in our family, because we certainly didn't know how to do it, and still don't know how to do it without the Lord. So, but He's blessed us, and He's been with us through it all, through it all.
well, let me say that y'all have learned how to do it. That's for sure over the course of years. An exceptional job from the Perrys to Jaidyn's call.
Yeah, and when you say learned how to do it, there's a lot of truth in that, because when you're in the public's eye and you're going through adversity and trials, people are watching, and they're watching your life, and they're seeing how that you respond to these things. I've failed many times. I have failed, and but I never want to fail. I always want to pass the test. So these trials, they come, and they'll either make us or they'll break us. And I'm so glad that the trials that we've been through as a family, they've not broken. It's like a strong-willed child. You break their will and not their spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes God allows us to go through these things because He knows that maybe our will needs to be broken a little bit, but our spirit is always renewed in Him.
2010, you decide to get back into gospel music. You form Jaidyn's Call, and there's some really heartfelt significance to the name in itself. Tell us about Jaidyn's Call.
Well, like I said earlier, I never thought that I would be back singing. And, me and my husband is a singer, and he had traveled with some groups, and actually sang full time for a good period of time. But I never had that desire to go back on the road. And then the Lord started when my daddy passed away. He would beg me, after I quit the group, he'd beg me to go to singings. And I was so involved in our local church that, I'd always put him off and always have an excuse. And when he passed away, I just felt a rebirthing of the love that I had for Southern gospel music. And, Southern gospel is a music that will touch you like no other. And a lot of people thinks that Southern gospel is on its way out. I don't think so, because I think as people get older, those good old gospel songs, there's nothing like them, nothing like the songs that stir our hearts. So never thought that I would be back on the road. And so when I finally gave in, my husband, he kept on. He said, we really need we can just do it once or twice a month. And And of course, I've been in this thing long enough to know that, once or twice a month will turn into every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did. And I was sitting in the bathroom and just praying one night about the name, because we started out with a different name for a few months, and the Lord said, ask me a direct question. He said, what's your passion other than me, other than him? And the only thing I could think about was Jaidyn. And for many of you that don't know, Jaidyn is our grandson. We went through a teenage pregnancy with our daughter Ashley. She was 17 when she gave birth to him, and what a journey, what a heartbreaking journey. The disappointment, the sorrow of just finding out that our daughter was pregnant. That was enough to just crush me to pieces. But never dreamed that there would be issues with this little baby. All I could think about was I'm not old enough to be a grandmother, but I really was. So we go to the doctor and we find out that the baby that she's carrying, it looked from the tests that they were doing that he was missing all of the lobes of the brain. Mm. And so, wow, I came home that day. It's broken, losing two brothers. The sorrow that I felt was overwhelming. And the depression, that when you go through stuff like that, trying to live right, trying to do right, and then, wow, here comes another storm. And so the Lord said, I'm going to give you a platform so that you can use this testimony, because there's a lot of people, families that's been through this same situation. And I'll have to be truthful. For a little while, the enemy jumped on my shoulder, and because we had plans for Ashley to go on to school. She had played basketball ever since she was in kindergarten, and she was she's only about 5'2", but she was fast as lightning. And she would always win the best defensive player. So I had plans for her. And I just knew a school was going to come along, and that her college would be paid for and all of that. But God allowed a different plan. And so when I heard the Lord speak that night, he said, I'm going to give you this platform, and you're going to share the story about how God brought you through. And so, Jake, that's how I didn't want to put my name at the beginning of it. And some of my Southern Gospel friends kept saying, Debra, you've got to put your name because nobody knows. Well, I had been gone from the group for 20 years. So I kept telling them, I said, well, nobody knows who I am either. So I didn't want the name to be about the Perrys. I wanted it to be about Jaidyn and our story. And so reluctantly, I did put my name on it. And I will have to say, it's a lot of people have made the connection with me and my family. So it hadn't been a bad thing, but a lot of places we go, they don't even say my name when they introduce the group. And I'm so glad when they do that, because it's like, yes, this is what I want. I want the emphasis to be on Jaidyn. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how that our name evolved.
Give us the rest of the story on Jaidyn, because he was not supposed to live past a year.
No, the doctors, we went to every specialist, every kind of doctor that you can imagine. And they first thought they had hydranencephaly, which is, the old timers used to call it waterhead babies, fluid on the brain. And he did not have that. It was definitely hydranencephaly, which a lot of those, the doctors were giving us all these medical terms, and we didn't understand any of them. I came home, jumped on the computer. That was my worst thing. Mm-hmm. I should have never done that. I should have just prayed and stayed away from the computer and let God take care of it. But he was, we were told that he probably, if he survived birth, that he would only live a month or two. And let me tell you, when he was born, I knew the minute that I laid eyes on him, because of the research that I had done. And I knew when I looked at him that he definitely had what they said.
Mhm.
And, he made it to his first birthday, made it to his second birthday. And this past August, well, this coming August, Jaidyn will be 14 years old. Now, he's profoundly disabled. He's wheelchair bound. He can't speak. He can't see. But one night, when he was probably about 2.5 years old, Chris and I were sitting in the living room, and I was doing the grandmama thing, playing with him, and I'd stripped all of his clothes off of him, but his diaper. And I began to raise him up in the air, and I turned him around backwards so I could do like that on his back. And I did it, I don't know how many times, and all of a sudden, see, he was turned backwards toward me.
Mhm.
So when I heard what I thought that I heard, I didn't think I heard it right. So I turned real quick to Chris, and I said, Chris, I said, did he just giggle? And he said, I think he did. And so I just kept, I was blowing, and he was cackling. I'm not just giggling, but he was cackling. And at that time, we were going through crying spells from him that would last. And that's what they told us. The doctors told us that he would grow really increasingly irritable, and that he would eventually die from a seizure or pneumonia. They still, at this point, they were not giving us any hope. And he had had pneumonia several times up until this point too. So we were going through a really, really hard place with him. And the beginning of that night, the next day, it was like he didn't cry as much. And within a month, those crying spells, I'm talking about, he would cry for 5 and 6 hours nonstop. And then he would take a break, and then he would start back. Well, those crying spells one day just all of a sudden came to an end. And it was like, wow, he didn't cry today. We were just praising the Lord, because we needed some rest.
Yeah.
Because he would do this a lot at night, and he would stay up. He was just a little booger. He would stay up all night. But with the help of medication, getting the seizures, he wasn't having the big grand mal seizures all the time. But when he did, especially when he was really little, it was terrifying. Because we were told that a seizure could take him out. But look, he's 14 years old, and he's still with us. He's growing a little mustache. I told my daughter the other day, I said, you're going to have to trim that mustache. And she said, no, Mom. She said, if I start trimming it, she said, but God is blessed. He sent a wonderful Christian young man into our daughter's life. And we didn't push for her to marry Jaidyn's dad. Sometimes it's just best that doesn't happen. And but he sent a great young man into Ashley's life. And so now she has a little girl, Isabella, and she has a new baby that's fixing to turn a year old. And I don't know that you know this, Brother Robert, if you went to our Facebook and read somewhat of the story about Jaidyn's call, but our daughter Ashley, Jaidyn's mom, had her second special need child this past Father's Day. And his name is Emery, and Emery was born with Down syndrome. No connection to what Jaidyn has at all. We found out this past February, was a year ago, that the doctors were saying that he was going to be born with Down syndrome, and I just couldn't believe it. And the morning that Ashley called with the results of the test, we had just recorded the song, It's Always Too Soon. Joel Lindsay, I don't know if you know him. He's a great songwriter. He wrote Calvary Answers for Me that the
Mhm.
Perrys sang years ago, and I think that was the #1 song. He's wrote several songs for the Perrys, and he called me one day because he asked me, we had recorded a song that the Collinsworth recorded, and we were fixing to single it. And so he asked me to hold off on sending it out as a release. And so I did. So Wayne Hahn got with Joel because they worked together with the Collinsworth. And Joel had the publishing on this. So we said, okay. And so Joel texted me, and he said, I just talked to Wayne Hahn, and he said, we're going to write you a hit song. Well, they didn't write it, but some of the writers that Joel publishes for wrote this song, It's Always Too Soon. And I came in my kitchen that morning, and I'm telling you, I was devastated.
Mhm.
I was a little angry. I was confused. I did not want this for Ashley. I felt like that her plate was full. And I just looked up and I said, God, this is so unfair. And this song, the title to this song, It's Always Too Soon to Give Up or to give in, to turn from this fight that we're destined to win. And when he brought that to my mind, he also spoke into my spirit. He said, you've been here before. And when I heard him speak that to me, I knew exactly what he was saying, that it was going to be okay.
Mhm.
And so Emery was born on Father's Day, and with Down syndrome. And we started praying that he would not have any kind of heart issues, and God answered that prayer. He has no issues whatsoever with anything. So we're praying. He's not meeting his milestones, but that's typical for Down syndrome children. But pray for our daughter, Ashley and Daniel. They have a plate full, and Ashley is a worship leader at 12 Stone Church in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, they have several campuses. She's at the Flowery Branch campus with her husband. He's an awesome drummer. God has raised them up and used everything that they've went through with these children as a platform for them too. So I look at our lives and I can't imagine us not having Jaidyn. And now that we have Emery, oh my gosh, you have got to go to our Facebook and look at his pictures. He is the most precious Down syndrome child that I've ever seen. And we're just thankful for this journey. And thankful for radio stations that will play us, where people will get acquainted with who we are and what we're about.
Well, obviously, I'm looking forward to a live concert so I can enjoy the ministry of Deborah Perry and Jaidyn's Call, and I do want to give our listeners some information in regards to how they get your product, and get in touch with you and more. But before I do, I want to say thank you, because I think too many times we as Christians want to cover up some things that happen in our lives
Oh
when it
yeah,
happens to all of us.
yeah.
We like to cover it up. I appreciate the fact that you are open and honest, because the things that you felt, thought, prayed, we all do. We just sometimes are afraid to acknowledge that fact.
Well, I think in Southern Gospel, because it's been so performance driven, that I think a lot of groups nowadays are trying to truly minister to people, not just entertain them. And there's an element to entertain, to the entertainment part when you sing. And I tell people when they call to book us, I said, now we're not the typical, if you're looking for just a concert, I said we come in and have church and worship the Lord and tell about what God's done. So I'm people want to see real. And let me tell you, when you meet us and you meet my crazy husband, he's real. We're real. We're about as real as you can get. So I appreciate you saying that, though, because that means a lot.
Tell us where we can get product from Deborah Perry and Jaidyn's Call, how we can get more information on the group, how we can book you, and how we can find out more about Jaidyn and Emery.
Okay. You can go to our website, and that's Jaidyn's Call at um, jaidynscall.com. Jaidyn is spelled JAIDYNSCALL.com. You can also, if you don't remember how to spell his name, you can go to southerngospeltrio.com. And we have all of our product there. You can also, I think we're on iTunes and all of that. I think we've finally gotten most of our music on iTunes and all of that. You can go there, or you can mail. You can contact us by email, and we'll be glad to send something out of the office here. And all we need is your information. Excuse me. You can also call us. We would love to come to your church or venue. We're actually going to be at the, if it doesn't end up being canceled, at the Alabama Quartet Convention that's held in Mobile, Alabama, this coming July. I think it's the third or fourth weekend, but you can go to our website and look. And we're going to also be near Crestview, Florida. And again, all of our dates are there on the website. So our phone number is 678-458-6699. Would love to talk to you about a booking.
Well, if you're coming to Crestview, go ahead.
As many of you know, us gospel singers have been sitting at home.
Yes. Well, if you're coming to Crestview, you're heading to our neck of the woods then. So
yeah.
We'll definitely look forward to that. And two, if are there dates surrounding that Alabama event or the Crestview event that you might need filled that we can possibly direct folks to your website?
I think there's 2 different weekends that we're going to be. The one in Crestview, and I was going to do this. I was going to get this. Hold on just a minute, because I would like to tell the listeners. Okay, where am I going to Google? I have one-track mind. Okay. And my phone sometimes has a one-track mind. It's probably going to take too long to pull this up, but let me see. And I don't have my glasses.
Hey, I understand all of the above. I've actually gone to your website to see if I can
if you can pull that up there. There's a week, the Alabama Quartet Convention weekend, that's in July, and then the ones that we're going to be near Crestview are in September.
All right, I see the one in July. It's like the 24th of the month. And let's see,
we'll be there Friday and Saturday, and then we have a homecoming back in Georgia for that Sunday morning. So we're going to have to scoot out of there Saturday night to make it back. I think that the dates in September, can you pull those up real quick? And
I got them. September 18th, you're going to be at the Hydranencephaly Baptist Church in Baker. September 19th in Pensacola at Family Baptist Church. Let's see if there's anything.
Yeah, I think the one in Pyron's Chapel, that's on a Friday night, I believe.
Okay, on the
18th. And then the one in Pensacola is on Saturday. So I don't think we have our Sunday dates worked out yet.
Well, then there's a perfect spot for somebody in our listening audience to go ahead. That's right. And get Debra Perry and Jaidyn's Call. So,
and listen, we have been doing some drive-in services. So if you're in a state that the governor hadn't opened your churches back up, and you're doing the drive-in services, we've actually, I'm telling you, this horn honking, that I mean, I have felt the Lord in that.
It's as good as the amens. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That they've been a lot of fun, but we've just had a great time doing the 2 or 3 that we've done.
Well, we're going to get folks to call you up for that. Looks like it's the 20th of September when you're in this vicinity. Got a Sunday open. So Debra Perry and Jaidyn's Call, you need to book them. Debra, thank you very much for talking with us today. Robert.
You're a
Thank you.
hard man. I've been calling you for a year. You just don't know how happy I am that I finally got to talk to you.
Well, me as well. And it's been a delight. We're looking forward to more great music from you and Jaidyn's call.
Thank you so much, Brother Robert.